and welcome back to In the Studio, powered by 100tb.com. 100tb.com is an infrastructure service provider that does stuff like dedicated servers, cloud server hosting, and other content delivery services. They make this show possible, so make sure you check them out at 100tb.com. We're back with a slightly different panel today. We've got one David here on the right, but we've got Purge joining K-Pop-Tosis on the analyst side.
Hey.
What's going on, man?
What's up? It's going pretty well.
Welcome back to America.
Thank you. It's been nice. I'm a little sick, so you'll have to excuse me. I probably sound a bit different, but I did my best to wash my hands. I'm not trying to bring a biological time bomb to like destroy NA's voices right before the biggest event of the year. So I promise.
We all just got done being sick.
Well, just
I avoided it, and
the Navi manager infected the entire house.
Did he?
Yeah.
Well, try not to use.
Damn you, Jay.
Try not
Damn
to
you.
use your toothbrushes. I used everybody's when you were sleeping. So.
Thanks, dude.
Ouch.
Yeah.
Just throw it in the micro. No problem.
Yeah, it'll be fine.
So we've got a pretty fun show today, guys. Purge is going to be joining us for the duration of the episode. We're going to have Kennigit coming on shortly here within our first segment to talk about ESL 1, some of the challenges of organizing an event in a massive stadium, and that is going to take place in Frankfurt this weekend. The second half of today's episode will be all about power rankings. We've got all sorts of recent results to talk about. WPC from a little while ago, ADL, the Summit, Dream League, and all these Chinese tournaments starting to wrap up, ECL and CDEC. And LD has another grand finals coming up tonight.
Yeah, there's a lot of Chinese tournaments. I think that the average viewer is not keeping track of which event it is, but just which teams are playing. So we had the DK versus Newbie BO5. Tonight we've got the DK versus IG BO5. That's for GST Challenge, I believe. What else is there? There's Newbie versus somebody to be determined. It's either DK,
I'm guessing DK
LGD, or Vici. But actually, Speed Gaming China beat Vici Gaming and LGD, so I think one of them is actually eliminated. I'm not sure which one it is.
LGD.
LGD is eliminated.
Yes, LGD lost to both Vici and Speed, but those games yesterday were crazy. Speed with 2 upsets. It seemed to be sort of a case of LGD and Vici underestimating them because both games they went for these kind of gimmicky, almost all-in push strats, and they just kind of backfired.
Road to TI5?
Yeah, I don't know, Speed Gaming, but not only did they draft appropriately to deal with that, but they looked tight. Last time I casted Speed, they were all over the place. Some players were running in when some were retreating, and they just seemed to be not communicating, but they were looking a lot better than I expected.
They were that was a team like about a month and a half or so ago. We started seeing it like in the Summit pre-qualifiers. Before then, they were doing some tournaments and having decent performances, and we're like, hey, this Speed Gaming team might, do well. And then they kind of just fell off, didn't perform well in the qualifiers for our event or the TI4 qualifiers, but they got a lot of promise.
Same for LGD CDEC. LGD CDEC has actually been doing really well against top teams lately, but not well enough, I guess.
They're going to overtake the classic LGD soon. They've been I can't decide how LGD have been looking recently. They've been losing a lot, but they've also been playing the super top-tier teams like Newbie and DK and IG.
They got farther than LGD in the CDEC tournament, actually.
Okay.
Well, I think they were eliminated in the same round, but LGD CDEC played their game a different day, so technically they were eliminated later.
They hung around
as it were.
One game later. So first up, though, we're going to talk about Purge a little bit, man. What's been going on with Zephyr? What's the good word over in Korea right now?
We're on a bit of a break now. KDL Season 2 just ended. We ended up placing 3rd overall, and we played up-downs against MVP Hot 6, which we won 2-0. Things have been a bit rough compared to last season. We ended, I think, 3-3 in the season overall, so we won 3 matches instead of last season 6. But everything's been going pretty well. The Korean teams have roster swapped enough, and they're increasing their skill level by quite a bit, so at least all the 4 teams in Tier 1 are actually pretty solid. Poker Face has been taking wins off of major teams recently. MVP Phoenix is obviously going to the TI qualifiers, or the qualifier spots, which is amazing. Yeah. And Rave recently got a new player from another C team. His name's Ninja Boogie, and he's fantastic. Oh, yeah. And Rave is probably the best team in Tier 1 right now. I dare say maybe even better than MVP Phoenix. So all the teams in Tier 1 are really good right now. So if you guys want to watch any pretty decent Dota, it's actually in KDL Season 3 coming up after TI.
Yeah, Ninja Boogie's been all over the place. Seriously. I feel like that guy's been on 10 to 15 teams this year, but he is fantastic. Very talented. He just hasn't. He's one of those, like, I want to say unlucky players who just hasn't found the right team.
Well, Korea's the place to be, man. There's plenty of money, so he definitely, and he joined Rave. Rave had a lot of trouble last season, and at the start of the season they did really poorly. They hadn't won any matches, but as soon as Ninja Boogie got there, they beat everybody basically, and they've just been wrecking. So they're the team to watch next season, I think.
What do you think about MVP Phoenix for the play-in tournament? They'll be up against CIS, Virtus Pro, and Team Liquid. What do you think their chances are at taking first?
I think they're a pretty solid team. They have tons of history and lots of gameplay. They have a lot of talented players, especially Reason, Forever as well. They're kind of up-and-coming players that people didn't know very much about. March has been around for a really long time, and he's definitely a very, very talented player. And Heen as well as Kyo are also solid. Like, they don't have a weak link on their team anymore. They did enough roster swaps to where they're in a really good place right now, and they really solidified their strategy. They really like taking early towers and team fighting, and they really did this somewhere between the middle of basically KDL Season 1 and KDL Season 2. They just improved a huge amount. Like, they really got better, and they did a great job. So I think I don't really see them winning the qualifiers, but I think there's a chance that they'll upset.
One of the most, the things that impressed me the most about MVP Phoenix is watching them play, especially in the qualifiers, is like what you said. They kind of developed their own style.
Yeah.
Like a lot of teams that are trying to kind of find their way or break into the top tier of teams will be a little bit too much of a copycat. But MVP Phoenix like took some advice from other teams. They learned a lot from Starlighter and other tournaments, and instead of completely changing the way they played, they adapted it. They kept some of their same picks. Like they kind of looked like MVP Phoenix still, but they were able to adapt it and turn it into a winning strategy, which I think is telling of a team that has a really good potential for future success.
Their weird picks are usually like they started picking Tidehunter a lot before most other teams did.
He's all the rage right now. Everyone's picking Tidehunter.
Very, very popular. They started offlaning him a little earlier than at least other teams in Korea. At least I wasn't really sure how often other people were. But they would pick Warlock for March sometimes. He'd do safe lane. They'll pick Death Prophet a lot as a carry position. And those are usually the main ones that are pretty normal. And Kyo usually plays typical mids like Naga Siren, TA, things like that. So
they remind me a bit of VG Gaming, like especially around the EMS one time, where they really like to 5-man. They'd go for like Pugna safe lane, DK mid, and basically just overwhelm you, brute force your towers at like 20 to 30 minutes. Seems like for the most part, MVP Phoenix play a similar style, albeit maybe not quite as polished, but it's the same mentality towards the game.
The 5-man is what they like. They really do, and they take your towers, and then if they get tower advantage, then the game should be over because they have good. Or you have to defend right before they take your first tower and win that fight. If you win that fight, the game's over because they have a 5-man style. Their carry potential is usually not the best because they have Death Prophet and stuff like that. So, but getting to that point isn't easy. You got to outlane them, and they still gank really well. Reason and Heen do a really good job with that, and their lane control is pretty solid. So, it's not an easy win. They have some weaknesses, but it's not easy to exploit.
Yeah, I think Reason's been the at least for me when I watched them was just the most impressive like individual talent on the team. I met him at Starlighter, very young, very humble, but the guy just makes plays, and he's just so polite. Like, he'd like, have an awesome game, and he's like, "Oh, I feel like I'm still learning. I'm not really that good." It's like, come on, man, you just kicked ass. Pat yourself on the back. But,
I'm surprised you didn't see the other side of him. He's very cuddly. Whenever we go to KDL matches, he'll always come up and just like hug you, or he'll stand in between 2 people, and he'll pull you into him. He'll have 3 people.
So you're saying him and Blitz are like a match made in heaven?
Reason is like Blitz 2.0 in that facet. He is like way overkill. Even the people that lived with Reason were a little off-put by it, but he's
it's
really
like
good.
more common in Korea though, right? The physical affection with your friends.
He is the extreme. He is actually the extreme.
He makes the more affectionate feel uncomfortable.
Yes. He's a really nice guy. He's really talented and very touchy-feely.
Okay, so who wins in a game of gay chicken between Reason
Easily,
and Blitz?
Not even a question.
It would be Blitz and gay chicken.
I can out gay chicken Blitz any time of the day.
Okay.
He always
well, can he beat you in gay chicken then?
Blitz?
No,
Reason. I actually out gay chickened him recently, and he hasn't been as touchy-feely. I just like overwhelmed him once. You just gotta like give him at least one push.
Just give him more than expected.
Yeah, and then he gets and he feels a little awkward about it. But if you always let them go on the offense, you're never gonna win. You just gotta punch him once, give him a little jab to the throat, just once, and then they'll back off and play it normal.
That gay chicken meta. Nice. It was so in depth.
All about it. Dude.
Yeah, I'm still learning here. Just don't touch me.
Learning the nuances of it. So. All right, TI right around the corner, obviously. Blitz is going. You are attending. Were you officially invited? Where do you stand on the TI panel?
I'm officially invited.
Okay, so can you reveal what you're going to be working on? Are you casting?
I don't think so.
Oh, okay. With a mystery.
Is it going to be Casey Patrol again?
No, I did that last year, but it was very informal. I basically I showed up to TI3, and I the first day I walked in, and Robin, one of the Valve employees, walked up. He's like, "Hey, we were wondering if you'd help out a little bit. Like we had this idea of someone to coach Casey, and you'd be perfect for it." I was like, okay. So I just ended up spending a couple hours every day going back and teaching Casey basic things. So that was very informal. But this year it's actually a full, typical.
That sounds kind of fun. Stuff, I got to do that with Clutch a little bit at MLG Columbus. For a few hours before the opening ceremony, I went through how to pronounce all the player names and all that stuff, and it's kind of fun letting somebody pick your brain that is not totally into Dota.
It's nice to get a reminder as well about where people come from when they first start playing as well. Especially when you do a lot of teaching of new people. It's good to get that reminder what it's like to to jump in and not know anything. So it was definitely fun last year. But I'm doing something different this year. I can tell you that at least.
Okay, well, that's exciting.
I just don't know if I can make it public, so I don't want to say anything.
So what about the rest of Zephyr? Obviously, you and Blitz will be there. Are they attending? Are they coming as
everybody's
fun
actually
fans?
going to come. So if you guys want to meet the Zephyr people, they're going to be at TI. So Bambo's going to be a little bit later. I think he's going to miss the group stage, I believe. He'll come for finals. And I think Steven and Corey are doing the same. I think the other 3 are just coming for the finals, but they should all be there in attendance. So if you guys want to meet them.
Are you going to be busting out the husbando and waifu shirts again,
I wore it the day
those?
before I came back to Korea, came back from Korea, and I forgot to wash it. So, I mean, I wear it all the time, but
got to get that like overnight shipped. You know, print up, get another printed.
I just get a new one. Yeah, why not? I'll wear 10 of them. Why not make my wardrobe?
You could probably sell them. Just like
that's actually a good point.
Sell them out of the back of your car outside of the arena, man.
Yeah,
that doesn't sound sketchy at all. Jesus.
Legit business model. Yeah. So we'll bring Kennigit on here in a couple minutes if you want to give him a heads up, Brian. But Kevin, one of the last things I wanted to ask you about was just adjusting to life in Korea. Being back in, is this your first time back in America since you guys moved out there?
Yeah, I've been gone for 6 months.
Is it kind of bittersweet coming back? Do you really miss it? Or are you kind of eager to get back home to Korea? Or is it starting to feel like home over there, or what?
You know, honestly, I feel at home by a computer, and I spend, you know, like many of us, 16 hours a day.
As long as you're getting that radiation tan.
And boy, do I. We don't even have to heat our house. Our electricity bill is way higher, but our heating bill is so much lower because, you know, just power run the computers. But I don't know. I kind of feel like I'm one of the people that could live just about anywhere in the world as long as I had internet. So I've been too busy to learn Korean properly, so that's partially affecting my cultural influence. But
have you learned it at all?
I know like 5 words or phrases. Honestly, I've like being a pro gamer is really difficult, and I've never worked as hard at something as I have while I've been in Korea, because like there's so much more at stake. It's not just about your income being affected. It's about letting your teammates down and affecting their income. So I have to like make sure I don't suck, which still doesn't always happen. And you know, I also have to do YouTube and streaming and all that other stuff, and I have to answer emails, and I have to do team stuff. I have to make sure our shirts come through. There's like so many things to do that I actually have a good excuse to not learn Korean, so I don't even feel bad about it.
You've learned like a word per month. That's pretty solid.
Yeah, I can say hello. I can say goodbye. I know how to say 2, but no other numbers, and
good.
a few other things.
Is that like the number of like whatever dish you normally order?
Yeah, because for some reason we always get two ciders or Sprites.
Okay.
So I always hear Will say that, and then it sticks in your memory.
You don't know bathroom? That would be.
I don't actually.
It seems kind of important.
I know very little, and not really. There's tons of English markings, so you can get away with it.
Fair enough.
And there's enough people that speak English that it's pretty.
Is Will totally bilingual, or is he?
No, his Korean is childlike, I hear, but it's gotten way better since he got there, and he really doesn't like translating. Whenever we go to restaurants, he just gets frustrated because Bambo's the worst for this, because he'll like ask for all these really complicated specifications on his burgers, and Will's like, I don't know how to say that, so I'm just not going to, and he gets really up in arms about it. But, he's definitely the best at Korean. Steven and Corey can read Korean.
Really?
And Blitz can speak it. So
is that before they got there, or they learned like?
Corey was previous actually,
there?
but Steven has actually been doing the hardest learning.
Some serious team effort right there.
That's
One guy reads, one guy writes.
Exactly. You just put them together and they got it. So it's reading menus is sometimes a bit difficult, especially if it's like a Korean word and Blitz doesn't know what it is. But generally, it's not too bad. So we can make do. It's not too hard.
Good stuff.
Yep.
Yeah. Sounds awesome.
I've been telling myself, like, I have to learn Russian. I have to learn Chinese. These are the Dota languages to know. And Chinese just being something that's, in theory, pretty useful anyway for the global economy. You know, there's a lot of people that speak it. I still haven't learned a word. Yeah, it's pretty bad.
It's
been to 2 star ladders, learned nothing.
Ni hao is the extent of my
They
Chinese.
teach me stuff in Ukrainian and Russian, but there's always drinking involved. So.
If only there was
I don't remember anything.
If only there was a bigger like Spanish Dota community, I would know a little more. I know there's like. But unfortunately, even for South Americans, it's almost as much Portuguese as there is Spanish, and I can't. Even though I took like 3 years of Spanish, I still can't tell the two apart sometimes.
Yeah, me neither actually.
So
every time I'm in Korea, I'm always like, man, I really wish they spoke Spanish here because I could get by.
Right.
But they don't. My Spanish isn't very good, but you know,
enough that you know how to say
used to be
bathroom.
good.
I know more than 6 words.
Yeah.
Let's say that.
That's
so
nice.
So Brian is our remote guest.
I'm calling him up right now.
All right, great. So thank you, Kevin. Glad you were able to stop by and join us for the rest of the episode as a panelist. So we've got Purge at our disposal, boys.
Ready?
I'm sure we'll
use me up.
Yeah,
use me up.
That was just such. It's like, where do I go with this prompt?
He's
what a shirt! What a fucking shirt! What? I see.
Hold on, we'll get the camera feed up.
Oh God, how do I get rid of my little
turn off your
preview?
camera?
I don't have a camera. It's on Xbox.
Click the video.
That's a good point. There we go.
Jesus.
All right, we got it.
Get
now.
your act together.
I think.
All right, Brian's just learned how to use computers, guys.
It's okay.
Hold on a second.
We didn't have computers when I grew up.
We didn't have computers in Alabama.
Someone actually told me one time they were surprised that I had internet where I was from, and I was like, "Of course we had the internet."
Well, you basically are from the third world. So.
Yeah, it's effectively a developing country. Yeah.
Slapped it around.
We have ESL's own Kennigit joining us.
Yes.
Kennigit, how are you doing today, man?
Good, man. It's late in the evening, but by nerd time, it's not that late, so
yeah.
Happy to talk to you guys.
Yeah, we're glad you could make some time for us. So, ESL1, the giant venue in Frankfurt, somewhere around 50,000 people attending. What's
Whoa. No, it fits 50,000.
It fits 50,000. Okay. How many are attending? How much of the stadium are you guys using?
So we'll fit about somewhere over 10. We think 10.5. I mean, we know what we've sold on site right now, but we have to wait and see what we actually put through the door locally. So one of the things with these types of events, we never quite know, right, until you see the gate at the very end. And so when we were looking at what we were sort of projecting, we've done huge events like IEM Katowice, which is 11.5. But that's a event that's free to attend, League of Legends, right? So we didn't actually have super good data to know, how many people we're going to put in here. Is going to be like 5K, 10, 15. Right. One of the interesting parts of this arena, though, is that we knew, well, listen, the biggest event we know of, like gaming festival-wise, that's, got a fairly heavy esports focus is BlizzCon. And BlizzCon last year did 25K.
Wow.
So we were like, well, we don't think we're going to do double what BlizzCon does. So we'll probably be somewhere below that. But that just kind of gave us this infinite ceiling where we were like, well, since it's our first event and we don't really have, sort of deep brand loyalty under ESL 1 yet, we're starting a clean slate, let's just grind it and see how many people we can put. And yeah, I mean, right now we're gonna put over 10,500 people in there. We'll fill the entire field, and then sort of the sides of the stadium, where the stage is right here, the whole field will fill, and then sort of the sides will start to fill up.
Okay.
But yeah, we're super excited about it because it was a calculated risk for us to do an event like this, and a lot of people were like, well, you're crazy. Like, why would you think you can do something like this? And most people, I think reasonably so, were a little bit jaded about it, about what we can actually. That what we learned is, and I'm sure you guys can attest to this, is that the esports industry itself is very small, compact. Sometimes it feels like Game of Thrones or House of Cards or something. The relationships and the backstabbing and everything that goes on politically, and sort of everybody knows everybody.
Yeah.
And what we suddenly figured out, and it hadn't really clicked with us when we started talking to these guys at Commerce Bank Arena, is that they're connected to every stadium in the world, pretty much every big one. And within, like 2 weeks of us announcing this, we're having meetings with people in other European countries, in the US, in Asia, and we're already planning like the next and the one after ESL 1 Dota event. So, I mean, we know now, okay, sort of Western Europe, if we have this many months and this amount of promotion and this amount of hype behind it, we can do, this many people. And then we can scale around that. So yeah, we're really excited. We think it's got a huge potential going forward. And the cool thing is that we don't have exclusivity on running massive Dota offline LAN events. So yeah, no matter what anybody else says in the industry, everybody is looking at this to see, right? I mean, you look at some of the bigger gaming events, and pretty much everybody's doing, okay, there's a Dota event, but there's also like, 10 other things attached to it.
Right.
Or, like DreamHack's primary business is the digital festival in the LAN, but they also have a Dota component. This is the first time in the West that you're seeing a massive group of people only there for Dota. And, it's already financially successful for us. And I think we're going to start seeing a lot more of them going forward.
Yeah. So you mentioned Kennigit. Hi, by the way.
Hi.
Good. Glad to have you on the show. But you mentioned that you guys are already looking into future events. So do you have any sort of rough timetable for those? You mentioned this is already financially successful. So I guess you won't announce all the details, but how far along are you in the planning process for those future events?
Well, I mean, every time you're doing some sort of business deal, and I'm sure you guys know this, especially with like sponsorship stuff, and that it's always 99% or it's 90%, and then you don't have a contract signed and it's 0%.
And you don't want to be the guy who didn't get the contract signed.
Well, we just haven't signed anything. We're talking to some people, and we're in the advanced stages of what we want the next event to be and where we think it should be. I don't think we'll have it announced until after Frankfurt, if we're gonna do anything that we think we're gonna do. But we're already looking, say, in the next 6 months, the next 8, 12 months of what we want to do. But yeah, until something is signed, we just.
Yeah.
Okay.
There is
we understand.
Technically, there is no next ESL 1 until it's signed, right? I mean, we're super confident right now, just on the talks we're having, that and the venues we're talking to are really excited. But yeah, it'll be after Frankfurt that we announce the next big one, and probably after TI4, because we're all just going to go to sleep after.
Yeah, the hibernation.
We second that notion, man.
I know that feel.
Yeah. I mean, that's events, right? Like, you get to that final week, and that's what we're in right now, and it's just like a total grind. You do super long hours. You realize all this, these little extra things that you didn't think of, and crisis management. And then once it's done, you just go pass out and don't think about games for a while.
We got a little taste of that for the summit. We were only managing 70 people, so not quite the same scale.
We definitely died.
But I tell you guys, it's a very similar experience. When I was at Team Liquid and we were doing TSL, that thing was, we were only broadcasting to like 10,000 people. And the whole thing is online, and it's still, the night before is crazy, and going into the finals, things are going wrong last minute, and this is just doing it at scale.
Yeah. So what's been the biggest challenge for you guys? I mean, tackling a venue this large, we've sort of just assumed that acoustics would be a big issue in terms of soundproofing the players, preventing them from hearing the PA, the cheering, just the rumbling of the stadium. Has that been a big problem for you guys?
Well. We've talked about that a lot, actually. So first of all, we won't use the stadium PA. So, the stadium PA sort of, you can imagine it focusing all the sound into the center of the arena.
Yeah.
There's a giant screen. The stage sits, 10, 15 meters in front of the stage. In front of the screen. And then the speakers are in front of that, pointing towards the audience.
Oh, okay.
So acoustically there, we're actually okay. And then we'll do some noise canceling with the players. And, we've done Katowice League of Legends, Katowice Counter-Strike, where you've got, huge mass of people screaming directly into the players.
Right.
From an elevated position, roaring at them.
Yeah.
The stage here is actually about 2 meters high, which is like, I don't know, just over 6 feet, like 6 or 7 feet. And then, they're sitting above that. So they're actually sitting a little bit above the crowd. So we're not super concerned. I mean, we were talking about what we need to do to build really super good crowd sensitive booths, right? Like something at TI. And the thing we realized is that we don't actually need to build a booth that is, good enough to block out sound from 10,000 people. We actually need to get it good enough that it can block out like 30K. Because we looked at what the Katowice numbers were last year, and I think they were 7,000, and then the very next year it's 11.5. And you find with all these big events that the numbers don't go down. You know, as long as you're offering a product and people really enjoy being there, more people will come next year. And this has been the case with everything. You know, DreamHack gets bigger every year. MLG gets bigger every year. Our events get bigger every year. So we're, you know, when we sit down and say, okay, what do we need to do for a really good soundproof booth? It's not just like, we can't just slap this thing together. It's a fucking massive investment to do. Dude, and those TI booths are in the hundreds of thousands of dollars. And I've heard from players, and I don't have it fully substantiated, that they could still hear a little bit, and that was with 2K.
Players said that.
Right?
Yeah, you could. They even did some testing before the event, and that was without the crowd. And you could hear like a tiny bit, but it's more like you heard like a rumbling as opposed to
Yeah, so
knowing exactly what's going on.
These things like, it's a real engineering problem, right? To have this thing stabilized to prevent rumbling and prevent sound, and we were like, you know, does it really make sense for us to invest like, I don't know, 500 or 600K right now into this thing on our first event? Probably not. The thing too is that, you know, I've been talking to the team owners about this. Is that there's sort of like, you know, sort of the structure of the Dota space right now is so kind of all over the place. That everyone's like, oh, you know, DreamHack should go and buy soundproof booths for Dream League, and ESL1 should go buy these, you know, super expensive ones for ESL1 because that's what TI has. But we're all really early in this process. Like, everyone's very excited, of course, and the, you know, prize money's going insane right now, especially with TI. But the structure of the Dota space right now is, you know, not super healthy for really big events. And, you know, we saw this with Dream League, right? Where, you know, you got this event that costs, I'm sure it's 7 figures for the entire year for that thing. And then sort of a last minute Navi can just like pull out. Yeah. That's fucking, it's some non-0% damage, right? We can debate about how much it is, but it's not nothing. And so I think there has to be better structure, and we have to sort of solve some of these system problems in Dota to really justify these huge big investments that we want to do, and we think they should be done. But we also have to be realistic about where the space is right now.
Right.
So I think it will come, and as we start doing bigger and bigger events, and we're going to go, okay, well, listen, if we want Alliance to be able to smoke into Roche, you know, at the beginning of the game, then yeah, you're going to have to do this sort of stuff.
Yeah. Well, Kennigit, I'm glad you were able to come in and chat with us a little bit about the big event coming up. Any shout-outs or anything else you want to announce about the event? Now would be an appropriate time, as we're about to wrap up the first part of this episode.
Sure. If you're in the area, please come check it out. You know, one of the things we realized really early is that, you know, 12-hour days of Dota, as much as I would love to do that all day, I think when you're talking big numbers of people want something else to do. So there's a lot of community artists coming in, doing demo sessions. We're going to be doing signing sessions with players. There's going to be a lot of cool extra exhibits and booths at the space to check out. And we're going to try and make some effort in the show itself to show what else is going on. And then, you know, tune in and check it out. We put a ton of work into changing the way we're actually going to broadcast this, because we could, you know. So I basically just changed the way we do shows with Red Eye for this event, and you know, I think it'll be really cool. So yeah, please check it out.
Yeah, should be awesome. I'm sure Dota fans across the world will be tuning in, and hope it works out well for you guys. So, guys, that was Kennigit. You can find him on Twitter at Kennigit, Kennigit, I believe. So follow him and stay up to date with all things ESL. We're going to take a quick break here, and then we'll be coming back, and we're going to talk some recent results and power rankings going forward into ESL 1 and TI4. Stay with us. We'll be back after this.